Chancellor Elena Vasquez stood at the large window of Harmony Station, watching the stars shine in the endless black of space. She was tired, but the good kind of tired that came from hard work paying off. After 3 months of talks, two species that had been fighting for over 1,000 years were finally ready to sign a peace treaty. The Zephyrians were tall, blue-skinned warriors who believed that strength came from battle. They had sharp teeth and could move faster than humans. Their ships were built for war, covered in weapons and armor. For centuries, they had raided other worlds and taken what they wanted. The Veil Collective were very different. They looked like tall, thin shadows with glowing eyes. They could read minds and speak without moving their mouths. They lived on dark worlds and rarely talked to other species. When the Zephyrians started attacking their colonies 50 years ago, the Veil Collective fought back with weapons that could drive enemies insane. Most people in the galaxy thought these two species would fight forever. But Elena believed that anyone smart enough to build starships was smart enough to choose peace. She had spent years learning about both cultures, studying their languages and understanding what they really wanted. The Zephyrians wanted honor and respect. The Veil Collective wanted to be left alone to grow their knowledge. Elena showed them that they could have both things without fighting. The Zephyrians could become protectors instead of raiders. The Veil Collective could share some of their wisdom in exchange for protection of their borders. Elena smiled as she remembered the first time she got both leaders to sit in the same room. General Cractor of the Zephyrians had nearly started a fight when Ambassador Whisper of Stars from the Veil Collective accidentally read his thoughts. But Elena had stepped between them and explained that fear made everyone act badly. She convinced them to try again. That was Elena's gift. She could see past the anger and fear to find what people really needed. Other species called her the Bridge Builder because she connected groups that seemed impossible to bring together. In the 97 years since humans joined the Galactic Confederation, Elena had helped end 12 wars and prevent countless others. Humans were good at this kind of work. They were not the strongest or smartest species in the galaxy, but they understood feelings. They could imagine what it was like to be someone else. This made other species trust them as neutral parties in fights. Behind Elena, the final preparations were happening. Tomorrow, representatives from across the galaxy would witness the signing of the Zephyrian Veil Peace Accord. It would be the biggest peace treaty in galactic history. The two species would work together to explore new parts of space instead of destroying each other. Elena's assistant, Marcus, walked up to her. He was young and excited about the peace talks. "Chancellor, the final guest list is ready. Every major power in the galaxy will be here tomorrow." Elena nodded but felt a small worry in her stomach. The major powers had not been happy about these peace talks. The corporate hegemony made money selling weapons to both sides. The Korthak warrior clans earned honor by serving as mercenaries in the war. The ancient ethereal dominion liked keeping other species busy fighting, so they could not challenge ethereal control. "Have our security teams checked everything twice?" Elena asked. "Yes, ma'am. Admiral Chen has ships positioned around the station. Every guest has been scanned. The station's shields are at maximum strength." Elena trusted Admiral Sarah Chen completely. They had worked together for 20 years. Sarah was one of the few humans who remembered the old days. Before humanity became known for peace, she understood that sometimes the threat of force was needed to protect peace. Elena walked to her office and looked at the treaty documents one more time. The words represented months of careful work. Every sentence had been discussed and argued over. Both sides had given up things they wanted to get things they needed more. The Zephyrians would stop their raids and become protectors of trade routes. The Veil Collective would share some of their technology for peaceful uses. Both species would work together to explore the dangerous regions beyond known space. Instead of fighting each other, they would face the unknown together. Elena thought about her grandmother who had been alive when humans first met aliens. Back then, humanity was very different. They had just finished a terrible war on Earth and were suspicious of everyone. The early human colonists were fighters and survivors who did not trust easily. But over time, humans learned that the galaxy was big enough for everyone. They chose to become peacemakers instead of warriors. Some people said this made humans weak, but Elena knew better. It took great strength to choose peace when you had the power to fight. A soft chime told Elena that General Kraktar wanted to speak with her. She opened the communication channel and saw the Zephyrian's fierce face on her screen. "Chancellor Vasquez." the general said in his deep voice. My warriors are nervous about tomorrow. They have fought the Veil for so long that peace feels strange. Elena smiled warmly. Change is always scary, General. But your people are brave. They can learn to be brave in new ways. What if some of my people do not want peace? What if they try to continue the old ways? Then you will show them a better way, Elena said. You are their leader. They will follow where you lead them. General Kraktar looked thoughtful. The Veil ambassador said something similar yesterday. Perhaps we are not so different after all. After the call ended, Elena felt hopeful. If these two very different species could find common ground, maybe the whole galaxy could learn to live in peace. She had seen too much suffering caused by war and hatred. Tomorrow's treaty could be the start of something wonderful. Elena spent the evening reviewing her speech for the ceremony. She wanted to find the right words to help everyone understand how important this moment was. Peace was not just the absence of war. It was the presence of hope, the chance for all species to grow and learn together. As she worked, Elena did not know that in hidden places across the galaxy, other plans were being made. The powers that profited from war had decided that humanity's influence was becoming too strong. They saw Elena as a threat to their control. Tomorrow's ceremony would indeed be historic, but not in the way Elena hoped. The Chancellor finished her speech and went to bed, dreaming of a galaxy where different species worked together to build something better than any of them could create alone. She believed in that dream with all her heart. It was a belief that would soon cost her everything, but would also awaken something in humanity that the galaxy had forgotten existed. Outside her window, the stars continued to shine, silent witnesses to the great changes coming. The galaxy was about to learn that some dreams were worth any price, and that humanity had never forgotten how to fight for what they believed in. The morning of the peace ceremony arrived with perfect artificial sunlight flooding through Harmony Station's great dome. Elena Vasquez put on her formal blue uniform, the one she wore for the most important occasions. Today would be remembered in history books for generations. The ceremony hall was magnificent. Representatives from 47 different species filled the seats. Translators worked quietly to help everyone understand each other. News reporters from across the galaxy aimed their cameras at the signing table where the peace treaty waited. Elena walked onto the stage and felt the weight of thousands of eyes watching her. She looked out at the crowd and saw hope on many faces. Young diplomats from different species sat together, already making friendships that would have been impossible before today. Friends and colleagues, Elena began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. Today we prove that the galaxy is big enough for all of us to thrive together. The crowd applauded. Elena smiled as she saw General Kraktar and Ambassador Whisper of Stars sitting near each other. No longer enemies, but future partners. War teaches us to see differences as threats, Elena continued, but peace teaches us to see differences as gifts. The Zephyrian courage and Veil wisdom will make the galaxy stronger when they work together, instead of against each other. As Elena spoke, she did not notice the small movements in the crowd. Security guards were slowly shifting positions. Several reporters were reaching into their bags. In the audience, beings from different species were making eye contact with each other in ways that should have seemed impossible. Admiral Chen watched from the security booth above the hall. Something felt wrong, but she could not identify what. Her instincts, trained by years of military service, were screaming warnings. She spoke quietly into her communicator. All teams stay alert. Something does not feel right. Elena reached the end of her speech and invited General Kraktar and Ambassador Whisper of Stars to join her at the signing table. The two former enemies stood up and walked toward the stage. The crowd cheered and applauded. That was when everything went wrong. The attack came from everywhere at once. Security guards who were supposed to protect the ceremony suddenly turned their weapons on the crowd. Reporters pulled military-grade weapons from their equipment bags. Even some of the diplomatic guests revealed themselves as armed assassins. Elena realized immediately that this was not a random attack. The assassins wore symbols from different galactic powers. She saw the corporate hegemony's gold triangle on one shooter's arm. Another had the Korthak war clan markings. A third wore the flowing robes of the ethereal dominion. The major powers of the galaxy had worked together to destroy this peace ceremony. They wanted Elena dead and the treaty destroyed. Chaos filled the hall as beings ran for cover. Elena saw young diplomats she had mentored cowering behind overturned tables. General Kraktar and Ambassador Whisper of Stars were fighting back to back, protecting each other just as the treaty had promised they would. Elena could have run to safety. Her security team was fighting to reach her and escort her to an escape pod, but she saw a group of young beings trapped in the crossfire. They were students here to learn about diplomacy. They were going to die unless someone helped them. Elena ran toward the students instead of toward safety. Laser blasts burned the air around her. She reached the group and threw herself over them, using her body as a shield. "Stay down," she told them. "Help is coming." A hegemony assassin appeared above them, weapon aimed at Elena's head. She looked up at him without fear. "These are children," she said. "Whatever you think I have done, they are innocent." The assassin hesitated for just a moment. In that moment, Admiral Chen's security team reached them. The assassin fell, but not before his weapon fired. Elena felt the burning pain in her chest and knew she was dying. She looked down at the young beings she had protected. They were safe. A Zephyrian student, a veiled child, and a human teenager all stared up at her with tears in their eyes. "Chancellor," the human boy cried. "Stay with us." Elena smiled through the pain. "Listen to me," she whispered, but her voice was still being broadcast across the galaxy through the ceremony's communication system. "This is what they fear. Different species caring for each other. They killed me because they cannot kill the idea of peace." The fighting was ending. Admiral Chen's forces had defeated the assassins, but too late to save Elena. The Admiral knelt beside her friend and leader. "Elena, medical teams are coming," Sarah said. Elena shook her head weakly. "Too late for me, but not too late for the dream." She looked directly into the nearest camera, knowing her words were being heard on thousands of worlds. "Humanity chooses hope even in darkness. We choose love even when others choose hate." General Kraktar and Ambassador Whisper of Stars reached Elena's side. Both warriors had tears in their eyes. "Chancellor," the general said, "that the treaty. Should we still sign it?" Elena used her last strength to reach for their hands. She placed the Zephyrian's hand in the Veil's hand. "Sign it," she whispered. "Sign it for all the children who deserve to grow up in peace." With those words, Chancellor Elena Vasquez died. Her body grew still, but her hand remained between those of the former enemies she had brought together. Across the galaxy, beings watched in horror as the news spread. The major powers quickly released statements expressing regret for the terrorist attack and denying any involvement. They claimed to be investigating who was responsible, even though their own symbols had been clearly visible on the assassins. The corporate hegemony's representative said, "The death of Chancellor Vasquez is a tragedy, but it shows why peace treaties are impossible in these dangerous times." The Korthak High War Chief announced, "Humans should stick to their own worlds instead of interfering in affairs they do not understand." The Ethereal Dominion's ancient council simply said, "The natural order has been restored, but something was happening that the major powers had not expected." Instead of falling apart, human space was becoming very quiet. Human ships were receiving coded messages from Earth. Human colonies were beginning to move resources and people in organized patterns. On Earth, Admiral Chen landed at the capital city as the sun was setting. She walked into the emergency session of the Human Defense Council, with Elena's blood still on her uniform. The room fell silent as she approached the podium. "They killed the best of us," Sarah said, her voice cold and steady. "They killed the one person who believed every species in this galaxy could be better than their worst impulses." The council members looked at each other. They knew Admiral Chen from her military record. She was one of the few humans who remembered what humanity had been like before they chose diplomacy over war. "What are our orders, Admiral?" asked the defense minister. Sarah looked out at the council and thought about Elena's final words. Humanity chooses hope even in darkness, but hope did not mean being helpless in the face of evil. "Recall all our diplomats," Sarah said. "Cancel all treaties with the major powers. Begin Protocol 7. The council members went pale. Protocol 7 had been written decades ago but never used. It was humanity's plan for what to do if diplomacy completely failed, and they needed to remind the galaxy who they had been before they chose peace. "Are you certain, Admiral?" the defense minister asked. Sarah thought about Elena dying to protect children from different species. She thought about the young beings who would grow up in a galaxy ruled by fear instead of hope. They wanted to see what humans are like without our moral leader. Sarah said, "Let's show them." In the 72 hours after Elena Vasquez died, something strange happened across human space. Every human colony, station, and ship received the same simple message from Earth. Stand by for new orders. Protocol 7 is now active. Most beings in the galaxy did not know what Protocol 7 meant, but humans did. It was the plan they hoped they would never need to use. The plan for when diplomacy failed completely, and humanity had to remember what they were before they chose peace. On the human colony of New Geneva, Governor Patricia Wu called together her council. All non-essential civilians are to be evacuated to the core worlds immediately, she announced. Essential personnel only remain. Begin converting all manufacturing to military specifications. The council members stared at her. New Geneva was a peaceful farming world that had not seen military activity in 50 years. Governor, one councilor asked, are we going to war? Patricia looked out the window at the colony's green fields and quiet towns. War has already come to us. Elena Vasquez died protecting children. The major powers think that makes us weak. They are about to learn otherwise. Similar scenes played out on hundreds of human worlds. Colonies that had spent decades growing food and building peaceful cities suddenly transformed. Hidden manufacturing facilities came online. Civilian starships received military upgrades. Research stations that studied peaceful sciences began working on very different projects. The galaxy's intelligence networks tried desperately to understand what humans were doing. Spy satellites watched human space but saw only normal-looking activities. Ships moved in regular patterns. Communications stayed encrypted but did not seem urgent. The corporate hegemony's intelligence chief, Director Valdez, studied reports from across human space. They are planning something, he told the Hegemony Council. But we cannot determine what. How dangerous could it be? Asked CEO Marlowe, the hegemony's leader. Humans have been peaceful for almost a century. Their military technology is defensive. Their doctrine prioritizes protection over attack. Director Valdez was not so confident. We know very little about human capabilities. They have been our allies for so long that we stopped watching them carefully. The same concern was growing in the Korthak war clans. War Chief Grendok called together his military advisors. The humans are moving ships, he reported. Not many ships, but they are moving them in patterns we do not recognize. Should we attack them now before they finish their preparations? Asked one advisor. Grendok considered this. Attack them with what? We do not know what they are preparing. Better to wait and see. Humans are not warriors. They will probably just make more speeches. But some beings in the galaxy were more worried. The Zephyrian General Kraktar sent a private message to his government. I have fought alongside humans. They are peaceful by choice, not by nature. If they have stopped choosing peace, we should be very afraid. The Veil Collective's ambassador Whisper of Stars sent a similar warning. I have touched human minds. Beneath their kindness lies something very old and very dangerous. Elena Vasquez kept that part of them sleeping. Now she is gone. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the war room deep beneath the capital city. The room had not been used since humanity joined the Galactic Confederation, but everything still worked perfectly. Holographic displays showed the positions of every human ship, station, and colony. Report, Sarah ordered. Her aide, Commander Rodriguez, activated the main display. All civilian evacuations are complete. Military production is at 100% capacity. Fleet repositioning will be finished in 18 hours. Sarah nodded. She looked at another display showing the major power fleets. The corporate hegemony had 12,000 combat ships. The Korthak clans had 8,000. The Ethereal Dominion had 6,000, but their ships were much more advanced. Together, they controlled most of the galaxy's military power. Humanity had only 3,000 ships, and most people thought they were just patrol vessels and cargo haulers. The major powers believed they had overwhelming superiority. Admiral, Commander Rodriguez said quietly. Are you certain about this? Once we begin, there will be no going back. Sarah thought about Elena's last words. Humanity chooses hope even in darkness. Elena believed every species could be better than their worst impulses. But some beings need to be reminded that there are consequences for evil choices. What about civilian casualties? The major powers have billions of innocent beings under their control. That is why we spent a century developing precise technologies, Sarah replied. We will remove the leaders and military forces. We will not harm civilians. That is what makes us different from them. Sarah activated the galaxy-wide communication system. She was about to address the Galactic Council directly. Representatives from across the galaxy appeared on her screen. Many looked nervous. The corporate hegemony, Korthak, and ethereal Dominion representatives looked annoyed. Honorable representatives, Sarah began, her voice calm and controlled. I am Admiral Sarah Chin, speaking for humanity in the wake of Chancellor Vasquez's assassination. CEO Marlowe interrupted her. Admiral, the hegemony regrets the terrorist attack on Harmony Station, but accusations against legitimate governments are inappropriate. Sarah stared at him through the screen. Director Marlowe, your agents wore hegemony symbols during the attack. The same is true for Korthak and ethereal operatives. We have complete recordings. War Chief Grendok spoke up. Even if that were true, what do you plan to do about it? Humans are not a military power. Sarah smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. You killed the one person who kept us from remembering what we used to be. Elena Vasquez spent her life building bridges between species. She believed in redemption, in second chances, in the possibility that even enemies could become friends. The ethereal representative, Lord Silvermind, spoke in his ancient, cold voice. Your point, Admiral? My point, Sarah said, is that we are the species that crawled out of gravity wells when everyone said it was impossible. We are the species that learned to split atoms, to bend space-time, to make machines think. We are the species that looked at an infinite hostile universe and decided to make it our home. Sarah paused, letting her words sink in. For a century, we chose to be diplomats instead of conquerors. We chose to build instead of destroy. We chose to heal instead of harm. You have just reminded us what we were before we made those choices. The representatives were beginning to look uncomfortable. Some of the minor powers who had not been involved in the assassination were moving away from the major power representatives. You expect us to be afraid of your threats? CEO Marlowe demanded. I expect you to understand that they were not threats, Sarah replied. Elena Vasquez was the greatest human who ever lived. She died protecting children from different species, children who represented the future she believed in. You killed that future. Sarah leaned forward and her voice became very quiet. We are going to remove you from power. All of you. Every leader, every command structure, every military asset that participated in her assassination. We are going to dismantle your empires and free every world you have oppressed. The major power representatives began laughing. The idea of peaceful humanity threatening their mighty fleet seemed ridiculous. And how exactly do you plan to accomplish this? Lord Silvermind asked with amusement. Sarah's smile returned. You spent a century dismissing us as weak because we chose peace. You never asked what we were capable of when we chose war. You never wondered what technologies we developed while you were busy fighting each other. She paused one more time, looking directly at each of the major power representatives. You are about to find out. This communication ends in 30 seconds. After that, consider yourselves at war with humanity. Sarah began counting down. 30, 29, 28. CEO Marlowe was no longer laughing. You cannot be serious. Our combined fleets outnumber yours 4-1, 15, 14, 13. War Chief Grendok was activating his emergency signals. All Korthak fleets prepare for human attack. 5, 4, 3. Lord Silvermind was reaching for his own controls. The Dominion does not yield to inferior species. 2, 1. Sarah cut the communication. She turned to Commander Rodriguez. Signal all fleets. Operation Elena begins now. Across human space, 3,000 ships that had been disguised as peaceful vessels suddenly revealed their true nature. Advanced technologies that humanity had spent a century developing in secret came online. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when the most peaceful species in known space decided that peace was no longer possible. When humanity revealed what they had built in secret, the galaxy discovered that peaceful did not mean harmless. The corporate hegemony's main fleet was patrolling the Centauri trade routes when human ships appeared around them. CEO Marlowe watched from his command vessel as what looked like simple cargo ships suddenly unfolded into something impossible. The human vessels seemed to bend space around themselves, becoming larger on the inside than the outside. What kind of technology is that? Demanded Admiral Torres, the hegemony's military commander. Before anyone could answer, the human ships opened fire, but these were not normal weapons. Instead of destroying the hegemony vessels, the weapons seemed to reach inside them and remove specific things. Command computers vanished. Weapon systems disappeared. Life support continued working, but everything needed for war simply stopped existing. Within minutes, the entire hegemony fleet was helpless. Their ships could still fly, but they could not fight. More importantly, their crews were unharmed. A human voice came over the communication system. Hegemony vessels, this is Captain Williams of the Earth Fleet. Your military capabilities have been neutralized. Any crew members who wish to surrender will be treated according to galactic law. Any crew members who wish to continue serving the corporate hegemony may leave in escape pods. Admiral Torres stared at his useless control panels. How is this possible? Our intelligence said humans only had defensive technology. On the bridge of the human command ship, Captain Williams smiled grimly. Your intelligence was correct. This is defensive technology. We are defending the galaxy from you. The same scene played out across corporate hegemony space. Every military installation, every armed merchant vessel, every corporate security force found their weapons and armor simply removed from existence. The humans did not destroy anything they did not have to. They surgically removed the hegemony's ability to fight while leaving everything else intact. But the most shocking moment came when the humans reached the hegemony's capital world. CEO Marlowe was in his office in the tallest tower of Prophet City when space around his building began to shimmer. The entire floor where Marlowe worked was suddenly somewhere else. Marlowe found himself standing in what looked like a courtroom, facing beings from dozens of species. Many of them wore chains or prison uniforms. Others showed signs of injury or malnutrition. CEO Marlowe, said a human judge, you are charged with crimes against sentient beings. These are some of the people your corporation enslaved, poisoned, or killed for profit. They will be your jury. Meanwhile, the Korthak war clans were learning that their warrior traditions meant nothing against enemies who fought in ways they could not understand. War Chief. Grendok led his personal fleet in an attack on a human colony, expecting to overwhelm the defenders with superior numbers and firepower. Instead, he found his ships flying through empty space. The human vessels seemed to exist and not exist at the same time. Target the lead human ship. Grendok roared. His weapons officer tried, but the targeting computers could not lock onto vessels that phased in and out of normal space. Sir, they are using some kind of dimensional technology. Our weapons cannot track them. The human ships reappeared around the Korthak fleet, but instead of attacking, they projected holographic images that surrounded each Korthak vessel. The images showed the history of every world the Korthak had raided, every innocent being they had killed or enslaved. Warriors of the Korthak clans, a human voice announced. You claim to fight for honor. Where is the honor in murdering farmers? Where is the glory in enslaving children? Some of the younger Korthak warriors looked troubled by the images. They had joined the clan seeking honor, not realizing what their raids really meant to the victims. Ignore their propaganda, Grendok commanded. Remember your duty to the clan. But then the humans did something that shook the Korthak to their core. Instead of destroying their ships, the humans challenged them to single combat. Not ship against ship, but warrior against warrior. Human soldiers in powered armor appeared on Korthak vessels, moving through walls as if they were made of air. Each human carried weapons that looked like ancient swords, but these blades cut through the strongest Korthak armor like paper. The humans fought with a skill and ferocity that terrified the Korthak. These were not the peaceful diplomats the galaxy knew. These were warriors who had trained for war while pretending to serve peace. One by one, the greatest Korthak champions fell to human fighters. But the humans did not kill them. Instead, they removed their weapons and armor, leaving them alive but defeated. True warriors protect the innocent, the humans told the defeated Korthak. You have forgotten what honor really means. The ethereal dominion proved the most challenging enemy, but also suffered the most complete defeat. Lord Silvermind commanded the Dominion's ancient fleet from his Crystal Palace ship. The Ethereals had ruled the galaxy for millions of years through superior technology and vast knowledge. They considered themselves above other species. The humans dare to challenge us, Silvermind said to his council. We who mastered space travel before their species even existed? The ethereal fleet was magnificent to see. Ships that looked like floating cities powered by energy sources other species barely understood. Their weapons could destroy entire star systems. Their shields had never been broken, but when the human fleet arrived, the Ethereals discovered that someone had been studying their technology very carefully. The humans had learned to predict every ethereal weapon, counter every ethereal defense, and outthink every ethereal strategy. Impossible. Lord Silvermind exclaimed as human ships moved through his fleet's formation, without triggering a single defensive system. Our computers are calculating their moves before they make them, but somehow they are always somewhere else. What Silvermind did not know was that humans had spent decades learning to think like every species in the galaxy. They understood ethereal logic so completely that they could predict ethereal predictions. The human ships did not attack the ethereal fleet directly. Instead, they used the ethereal's own weapons against them. Human technology turned the Dominion's great ships into prisons for their crews. Ancient ethereal lords found themselves locked in their own chambers, unable to access the controls of vessels they had commanded for centuries. "How are you doing this?" Silvermind demanded when human soldiers appeared in his command chamber. "We learned from you," replied Captain Sarah Kim, the human commander. "We studied every species, every technology, every form of warfare in the galaxy. While you were fighting each other, we were learning from all of you." But the humans saved their most devastating attack for last. They did not just remove the major powers' military capabilities. They dismantled the systems of oppression that the major powers had built. Corporate hegemony slave worlds found their chains simply disappearing. Korthak-rated colonies discovered that their orbital defense systems had been upgraded overnight. Ethereal-controlled species woke up to find their puppet governments replaced by elected councils. The humans had not just planned to defeat armies. They had planned to free the galaxy. On Earth, Admiral Chen received reports from across human space. Every major military target had been neutralized. Every oppressive government had been removed. Every enslaved world had been liberated. "Casualties?" she asked. "Minimal," Commander Rodriguez reported. "We lost 47 ships and 800 personnel. Enemy military casualties are also light, mostly from those who chose to fight to the death rather than surrender." "Civilian casualties?" "None. Our precision targeting worked perfectly," Sarah nodded. "In 6 hours, humanity had dismantled 3 galactic empires without harming a single innocent being. It was exactly the kind of surgical operation that Elena Vasquez would have approved of, if it had been necessary. But Sarah knew the hardest part was still coming. Destroying oppressive governments was easier than building just ones. Elena would have known how to build something better. Now humanity had to figure out how to do it without her. Sarah activated the galaxy-wide communication system one more time. Beings from hundreds of worlds were watching, waiting to see what humanity would do with the power they had just displayed. "People of the galaxy," Sarah began, "the war is over. The major powers that killed Chancellor Vasquez have been removed. Their fleets are neutralized. Their leaders are in custody." She paused, knowing that everyone was wondering what came next. "But we are not here to rule you. We are here to give you the choice that Elena Vasquez died protecting, the choice to build something better together." 3 months after the war ended, beings from across the galaxy gathered on Harmony Station for a very different kind of ceremony. The station had been rebuilt exactly as it was before, but now it hosted representatives from hundreds of worlds that had never been allowed to speak for themselves. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the same podium where Elena Vasquez had given her last speech. The hall was filled with former slaves, liberated colonists, and species that had lived in fear for generations. Many of them still looked nervous, not quite believing that their freedom was real. "Friends," Sarah began, using Elena's favorite word, "we are here to build something that has never existed before, a galactic government based on choice, not force." In the audience sat General Krektar and Ambassador Whisper of Stars. The Zephyrian Veil Peace Treaty had been the first document signed by the new Galactic Council. Both species had become strong supporters of human leadership, remembering how Elena had died protecting their dream of peace. Also present were many former enemies. CEO Marlowe sat in the section reserved for those facing trial, but he was not in chains. Human justice focused on making people face the consequences of their actions, not on revenge. He would spend the rest of his life working to repair the damage his corporation had done. War Chief Grendok had surprised everyone by asking to join the new Galactic Defense Force. Many young Korthak warriors had followed his example, choosing to protect the innocent instead of raiding them. "True honor," Grendok had said, "comes from serving something greater than yourself." Even some ethereals had chosen to work with the new government. Lord Silvermind remained defiant, but younger ethereals saw the wisdom of cooperation. They offered their ancient knowledge to help solve problems like disease and hunger. Sarah continued her speech. The old powers ruled through fear and kept species fighting each other. We will rule through consent and help species work together. A small being from the former slave world of Epsilon 7 stood up. Her species had been forced to mine dangerous crystals for the corporate hegemony for over a century. Admiral Chen, she said in a tiny voice, how do we know you will not become like them? Power changes people. It was the question everyone wanted to ask but were afraid to voice. Sarah had expected it. Because, Sarah replied, we remember Elena Vasquez. Every human ship carries a recording of her last words. Every human base has a memorial garden in her honor. Every human leader swears an oath to serve peace, not power. Sarah activated a holographic display showing Earth. More importantly, we are going home. The audience gasped. No one had expected this. Humanity will withdraw from galactic politics once the new government is stable, Sarah explained. We will return to our own worlds and continue the work Elena started, proving that peace is possible. But we will also remain ready should the galaxy ever again choose oppression over freedom. A Zephyrian delegate stood up. But who will lead the galaxy if humans withdraw? Sarah smiled and gestured to the diverse crowd around them. You will. All of you. Together. The new Galactic Council was unlike anything that had existed before. Instead of being dominated by a few major powers, it included representatives from every inhabited world. Former slaves sat beside former masters. Ancient species worked with young civilizations. Every voice had equal weight. The first laws passed by the new council banned slavery, prohibited aggressive war, and established basic rights for all sentient beings. The corporate hegemony's business practices were outlawed. The Korthic clan raids became illegal. The ethereal dominion's control over other species was ended. But the new government did more than just stop oppression. It actively worked to heal the damage of the past. Former slave worlds received aid to rebuild their societies. Raided colonies got protection and resources to recover. Species that had been kept primitive by the ethereals received education and technology. The galaxy began to change in ways that amazed everyone. Without constant wars, resources could be used for exploration and growth. Without oppression, species began to share knowledge and culture. Without fear, beings started to trust each other. Trade routes that had once been battlefields became highways of peaceful exchange. Research stations that had developed weapons began working on cures for diseases. Military shipyards converted to building colony ships for exploring beyond the galaxy's edge. The transformation was not without problems. Some former hegemony officials tried to restart their criminal enterprises. A few Korthak clans attempted to return to raiding. Several ethereal lords plotted to regain their power. But each time the new Galactic Defense Force responded swiftly. Led by reformed Korthak warriors and equipped with human technology, they stopped oppression wherever it tried to return. The message was clear. The galaxy belonged to those who chose cooperation over conquest. 1 year after Elena's death, Sarah Chen stood in the memorial garden on Earth, where a statue of the fallen chancellor watched over flowers from dozens of worlds. The inscription on the statue read, "She taught us that strength serves peace, not the other way around." Marcus, Elena's former assistant, approached Sarah. He had spent the year helping establish the new government and was preparing to join the first expedition beyond the galaxy. "Do you think she would be proud of what we accomplished?" Marcus asked. Sarah thought about the question carefully. Elena believed that every species capable of reaching the stars was capable of wisdom. The galaxy is finally proving her right. But we used force to achieve peace. Elena always said violence was never the answer. Sarah looked at the statue of their beloved leader. Elena was wrong about one thing. Sometimes violence is the answer, but only when it is used to stop greater violence. Only when it protects the innocent. Only when it serves peace instead of power. Marcus nodded. The galaxy is safe now. Other species are learning to solve their problems the way Elena taught us. Through understanding, compromise, and hope. Then our work here is done, Sarah said. Elena wanted us to be teachers, not rulers. We have taught the galaxy what she tried to show them with words. Now they can learn the rest on their own. As Sarah spoke, reports came in from across the galaxy. The Zephyrians and Vale Collective had completed their first joint exploration mission. Former corporate hegemony worlds were electing their own leaders. Young beings from different species were studying together at new universities built on former military bases. The dream Elena died for was becoming real, but humanity was also preparing for the future. Human scientists continued developing new technologies, not for war but for exploration. Human ships were being built to travel beyond the galaxy, seeking new worlds and new civilizations to befriend, and in hidden facilities across human space. The technologies that had won the war were being maintained and improved. Because Sarah Chen and other human leaders understood something that Elena, in her boundless optimism, had sometimes forgotten. Peace was only possible when good people were stronger than evil ones. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was their choice to be peaceful despite their capabilities. But they had also learned that when peace was no longer possible, humanity remembered how to fight for what was right. As the sun set over Earth's capital city, Sarah looked up at the stars and thought about Elena's final words. Humanity chooses hope. Even in darkness, the darkness had passed. The galaxy was filled with hope again, and somewhere among those distant stars, beings who had never known freedom were learning to build something better than any of them could create alone. Elena Vasquez was gone, but her dream lived on in every species that chose cooperation over conflict, every world that chose justice over oppression, and every being that chose to believe that tomorrow could be better than today. The galaxy was at peace, and humanity stood ready to keep it that way.